I didn't figure her out in the first 5 years. I've been a 38-year student of one woman. I don't have to figure out any other women necessarily but my wife.
As we look at the world now, it's very clear that men are under attack from every angle. In fact, if we watch TV, men are always the idiots or the unnecessary, the set dressing essentially, or the comic relief. What are some of the pitfalls that modern men find themselves fighting against?
Well, let me answer that question as it relates to being a husband.
Okay.
And that the first one would be passivity. It's so easy to be, the brunt of the joke, as you were saying, and just say, oh, it's just funny humor. And, I'm not really like that. Well, if you're passive, you're kind of making the case that they're and of the joke that they're putting together for us. And so men, we can remember when Adam was passive in the garden and the mess that got us into. But at the same time, you don't want to swing the pendulum so far that you become this man that lords it over your wife in a way that is so opposite of being passive. So what does that look like to mutually submit to one another in love? And Ephesians 5 talks about that, that, yes, it specifically says that women should submit to their husbands, but husbands should love their wife as they love themselves and as Christ loved the church. So it's a tall order to love your wife. And here's how I have told my 4 sons, 2 of which are married. Being a man's kind of simple. We're not too complex in a lot of ways. Women are a lot more complex. They got a lot more knobs on their machine. They're harder to figure out. But here's the good news. You only have to figure out one woman, and that's your wife. So become a student of her. Know what she loves, her love languages. Know the flowers she likes and doesn't like. A great example there is when Rachel and I were first married, I had this grand vision to get my wife flowers on a pretty regular basis. So I got her this nice bouquet of carnations, pretty early in our marriage. And about a couple weeks later, she came to me and said, "Hey, can I, ask you a question, make a comment about the flowers?" "Sure." "Carnations are my least favorite flower." "Hey, good to know." So I've never gotten her carnations again because I was a student of my wife and I learned it's not that. And now in my Evernote, I actually have a list of some of the other flowers that are her top 4 or 5. So sunflowers are a biggie. And not just any color roses, but yellow roses are her favorite rose color, with red being second. So I know what she likes. I'm a student of hers. I know, as she says, I know what she likes on a pizza. And so I can order for her. We go to a restaurant. I know what she wants to drink. It's the soda water. That's her drink with a lemon in it. So know your wife. Get to know all the nuances. And then just know that they're complex and there might be some changes through the years and you might have to relearn some things. So I didn't figure her out in the first 5 years. I've been a 38-year student of one woman. I don't have to figure out any other women necessarily but my wife. Now, and it's kind of interesting. I have 3 daughters and they're all 3 different. And I'm actually glad I don't have to marry them because that would be really difficult to figure out 3 more girls that are so different from each other.
Yeah.
But the men that marry them, they only have to figure out one. But then the last thing, and probably the one that we're all aware of, is men are bombarded with the temptations to lust. And as a man, we want to live a faithful life. And when we lust with all the temptations that are in the magazine rack, that are on television shows, that are in the palm of your hand with the internet, we've got to be very careful to live faithfully and to protect our eyes, because that is movements towards being unfaithful. And so even if you don't have a physical adulterous affair, God says lust is a sin. And if you've lusted, you've committed adultery. So stray from that, guys. Be strong and courageous in that battle. Help each other. My sons help each other, and I've helped them just in being accountable to each other and asking, how are you really doing? I trust them, they trust me, so we can be honest with each other. So make sure you have some good, close male friends that you can really be honest with about the battle that every man faces in that regard.
This episode of Rapid Response was brought to you by CTC Math. Visit them at ctcmath.com today.